When people reach their later years, the hope is often to live with peace and security, knowing that their needs will be met without constant worry. Yet, the reality for many Americans is far more uncertain. Without a steady pension or substantial savings, the future can feel fragile. For those without significant assets or the support of caring children, aging can become a time of anxiety and loneliness rather than comfort and dignity. Mary, a 60-year-old woman, faces this very challenge. She has no pension, limited property, and her only son has shown little willingness to support her as she grows older. Mary's story is one of resilience and tough choices, one that urges us to reflect deeply on the importance of planning for our own futures. It is a cautionary tale, reminding us that relying solely on others, even family, can sometimes lead to disappointment. Yet, within Mary's journey lies inspiration, the courage to take control of her own destiny and live her later years with dignity and self-reliance. This story invites us to listen, to empathize, and most importantly, to prepare wisely for the years ahead.
My name is Mary, and I'm 60 years old. I've spent most of my life in a small rural town in the Midwest. More than 2 decades ago, my husband worked in construction to support our family. One day, tragically, he died suddenly in a workplace accident. It was a devastating blow, not only emotionally, but financially. The construction company offered me a settlement of $45,000. It wasn't much, but the company was struggling and threatened with bankruptcy. I was told that if I refused the settlement and pursued legal action, I might end up with nothing. I understood that the company was barely making payroll, and my husband's wages had often been delayed. I didn't want to risk getting nothing at all. So after much hesitation, I accepted the settlement and signed the papers. With my husband gone, the foundation of our family's income disappeared. I had the $45,000 in hand, but it felt like a thin safety net. I knew it wouldn't last long. Our son was 18 at the time, just a young man trying to find his way. Seeing me struggle, he said he wanted to move to the city to find work and help support us both. He hadn't done well enough in school to attend college, so this seemed like a practical choice. I gave him $1,500 to take with him, asking him to save it for emergencies. At first, he found a job as an auto mechanic, earning about $3,000 a month. He promised that once he gained experience, his pay would double, and he assured me he would support me in the future. Hearing those words, I felt a flicker of hope. But soon, he asked to use the settlement money I'd saved to buy a small condo in the city, saying that it was better than paying rent. I hesitated deeply. I was scared to lose that financial cushion because at my age, without a pension or steady income, I didn't know how I would survive. But my son was determined. He promised that once his salary increased, he would bring me to live with him, and I could depend on him. With a hopeful heart, I transferred nearly all the money to him. Looking back, this was a pivotal moment, a mixture of trust, hope, and the heavy weight of uncertainty. It's a reminder that in life, especially when it comes to finances and family, we must tread carefully, balancing hope with caution and planning for the unexpected. After my son bought the condo, life didn't become easier as I had hoped. The unit was unfinished, with no flooring, no appliances, just bare walls. He promised that once he saved enough money, he would finish decorating the place. Meanwhile, back home, I did what I could to support him. I raised chickens and some pigs on our small plot of land, selling them to earn extra money. Every dollar I made, I sent to him, hoping it would help speed up the process. My son always said decorating the condo was important. He wanted it to be perfect, to be something he could be proud of. But when he told me it would cost at least $25,000 to do it properly, I felt overwhelmed. That was a huge sum for us, and I worried we might never reach it. I urged him to be practical, to settle for something simple and affordable. But he was stubborn and determined. He said life was about setting goals and working hard to achieve them. His drive was admirable, but it came with a cost. The constant pressure to save and stretch every penny. Years passed, and the condo was still not fully finished. During one New Year's visit, my son introduced me to his girlfriend. She came from a wealthy family, and she seemed confident and poised, the kind of person who belongs in the city. I sensed her disdain for my humble background, and that hurt deeply. My son said if they married, her family would cover the remaining decoration costs. I wanted to believe this was a blessing, but my heart was cautious. This phase of my life taught me something crucial. Even when we hope for support from loved ones, things don't always unfold as expected. The path to security is rarely smooth. It's a lesson to prepare wisely, guard our resources, and keep our expectations grounded, no matter how much we love and trust those closest to us. When my son and his girlfriend got married, I was there, but I quickly realized I was more of a shadow than a guest. I sat quietly in the corner, unnoticed and unacknowledged by most. It was a painful moment, watching my son start a new chapter of his life without really including me. He tried to comfort me afterward, saying that we didn't come from much, and I should be patient. He promised that once he was more established, he would make me proud. At the time, I clung to that hope, thinking maybe someday things would get better. But things didn't improve the way I imagined. After the wedding, my son began to pull away. Calls became less frequent, and texts were unanswered. When I reached out, I often got no reply. It was as if I were slowly being erased from his life. The neighborhood gossip eventually revealed what I hadn't known. My daughter-in-law had given birth to a baby girl. I didn't hear from my son or daughter-in-law about this new grandchild. When I called, it was the daughter-in-law who answered. She told me not to call my son so much, that he was very busy, and instead suggested I come to the city to help care for my granddaughter. Her words shocked me. The tone was cold and demanding. I was supposed to drop everything and become a caretaker on their schedule. But I was old, and my health was not what it used to be. I told her I simply couldn't do it. She insisted that since I was now elderly, I should rely on my son, and that meant I had to comply. Anger and sadness swelled inside me. I hung up, realizing that the family I had hoped to lean on was no longer a safe harbor. This was a painful, but important turning point. I understood then that I couldn't rely on others, not even my own son and daughter-in-law, to provide the security and respect I needed in my later years. As a woman who had lived through much, I had to take control of my future. Waiting passively or placing all hope in family could lead to heartbreak. So I made the difficult but necessary decision to sell my home in the countryside and buy a small apartment in the city. It was modest, but it was mine. This choice was not easy, but it was empowering. It was a declaration that I would no longer be at anyone's mercy. I found work as a janitor, not glamorous, but steady and manageable. It allowed me to support myself and live independently. No pension, no savings, but a sense of dignity and peace. Now, as I look back on everything, I realize the most important lesson I've learned is this. In life, the only person you can fully rely on is yourself. It's a hard truth, but an empowering one. Family, friends, even those closest to us, sometimes they disappoint or fail us, not out of malice, but because life is complicated and people have their own struggles. That's why building your own strength, your own resources, is so vital. I have no pension and very little savings, but I am no longer afraid. I don't worry about being a burden or about being forgotten. Instead, I wake up each day with a sense of purpose and calm. I work in a job that suits my energy and allows me to live independently. My small apartment may not be fancy, but it's mine, and it represents my hard-earned freedom.
Mary's journey is a reminder that even when circumstances feel bleak, we can choose to take control. We can prepare, adapt, and find dignity in the way we live our later years. It's never too late to start planning for your future. And it's never too late to believe that you deserve peace and security. To anyone listening, especially those entering or approaching retirement, I urge you to think carefully about your own situation. Don't assume that your family will be your safety net. Build your own foundation, whether that means saving more, seeking new opportunities, or nurturing your own independence. Take the time to understand your emotions and your financial realities. You owe it to yourself to prepare wisely. Remember, the strength to face the future doesn't come only from money. It comes from knowing you have choices and the power to make them. And when you do, you can face whatever comes with courage and grace. Mary's story is one of many, but it can inspire us all to take ownership of our futures and live with confidence, no matter what life brings.